Why are Trump officials moving into military bases and out of their homes?
Why is there an unusual amount of Trump cabinet members that's actually staying on military bases? And why is no one actually talking about this?
I have a conspiracy theory about this.
I think all Trump officials know Americans can switch up on them as soon as possible. And if I'm lying, let me know in the comment section.
Why are Trump officials moving into military bases? Why? The Atlantic reports senior Trump officials Stephen Miller and Marco Rubio have moved into military base housing in DC. You know, the kind of historic homes that normally go to top uniformed officers, as they should. Just like that's not a metaphor. Actual houses on Fort McNair's General's Row. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, remember her? She's been living rent-free in the Coast Guard commandant's residence at Joint Base. Yeah, the commandant's house, while the service scrambles to justify it. Even the Washington Post says insiders are not thrilled, and why would they be thrilled? Meanwhile, the Pentagon's running a barracks housing task force because troops are dealing with mold, broken plumbing, and shortages. So soldiers wait while political appointees get keys to the nicest places on bases. Also, remember the 136 or 7,000 in upgrades for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's official residence in Fort McNair. So the Army paid for it. Raising a bit more transparency questions, don't you think? Just bottom line, when taxpayers pay for military housing and it becomes a refuge for politicians to avoid protests, is that supporting the troops? That's cutting the line. Who approved these moves? What's the rent? Is there rent? And who was supposed to get these homes? If you think military housing should prioritize military families, share this.
A bunch of Trump's top officials are moving onto military bases. This includes Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem. Why are they doing this? Because they're afraid of the American people. They're literally waging war on American citizens, not just people who are here illegally, okay? They're waging war on American citizens, detaining people, deporting people without due process. This is so many crimes that they're committing, and they're going to go hide on a military base so that the American citizens cannot get to them. Because, all these military folks, they're just following orders. They're not going to be able to do anything to these Trump officials. Why are they hiding? What are they so afraid of? If they're doing such great things, why do they need to hide from us?
Y'all done seeing Steve Bannon literally stand there in front of people, telling them, forcing them to vote to make sure they do their dictatorship seriously and perfectly and successfully in 2028 to make sure DJT becomes president again. Because if he doesn't win, they're all going to jail.
I have a conspiracy theory about this. Let's say you had a plan to destroy things so you could build it back up in your image, in your ideals, in your goals. And let's say the people didn't respond the way you thought they was going to respond. You had plans on really being able to take over every city and therefore their elections and therefore their ways of interacting with people and the local, all of that. You had plans to take over all of that across this country and have the powers of their purse and their might, their military, their National Guard. And it didn't go that way. Like, for some reason, people didn't go outside, and you was going to use them people to go outside, and then they didn't go outside. Now, instead, you pissing off these people. You making these people really, really angry and feeling like they don't got nothing to lose. And you made it so the person at the top is the only one that could get away with all of this. Everybody else is going to get popped. And so when they say they scared and we don't believe them because they lie about everything, I need y'all to understand what they're lying about is who they're scared of. They're making it sound like they're scared of us so that they could still try to get these people mad at us, helping them get us in check so that they can do all of those things to them without them knowing about it. But instead, because we stayed our butts in the house and we didn't do any of the things we usually do, they are dealing with the repercussions of their vote. And they're upset. The ones that voted for this and the ones that didn't. And who are the most violent people in history? Historically accurate facts. These people. So, no, they scared for real. I tried to tell y'all, when he first brought the National Guard to DC first, before LA, before New York, before Chicago, he needed them in DC because they were already getting threats on their lives. And it was them doing the threats. We be looking for credible threats. And y'all think that they're watching y'all and they're coming for y'all. And y'all are who they're going to send the goons towards. Those are accidents. When American citizens, when even black and brown people that are American citizens are getting hemmed up in administration, it's because they're incompetent. It's not because that's their intent. Their intent is to make you mad enough to be used as a scapegoat. Their intent is not to come and get you. They're not fearful of you because the FBI has algorithms and statistics in all ways in which they can tell who's really dangerous and who's a credible threat. That's why things are considered credible threats. I could say I want them going all I want. I could say I wish this and that. I could say and talk and talk and talk. And, you know, I might get fined. I might get fired from my job. But the feds ain't really coming to check for me unless there are certain things in place that say I'm a danger to myself and my community, and more importantly, them. There has to be a certain amount of guns in the house. There have to be a certain amount of charges or pre-charges on your books. There have to be a certain amount of reckless behavior seen, drug and alcohol use, age requirements. Like there's so many things that go into building an algorithm that lets the feds know that you are a credible threat. And they are receiving, allegedly, an unprecedented amount of credible threats. An unprecedented amount. And it's all these people. It's not us sitting in our, we don't do that. We don't do that. That's not how we threaten you. Okay. So my conspiracy theory, if you stayed this 4 minutes and some change, is that they are really scared, that a lot of them are going to be moving on bases. They have an expectation they're going to piss you off further doing what they're doing. And they are really terrified for their lives. And this is going to get interesting because those that don't have Secret Service, they're expecting to get popped first. And they're right. Look at Charlie.
Now, if you see them moving into military bases, what do you think they're fearing? Y'all realize DJT just cut snaps for everybody? They are at a point where they know Americans are angry and they are capable of anything. That's just my reasoning. And if it was one person talking about it or two, but you find big networks talking about it, I don't know. You tell me what you think in the comment section. But from me to you, I know damn well they're so scared of Americans. Americans are sick and tired. I know damn well they're sick and tired of these officials. Those Stephen Millers standing and bullying them. American people are sick and tired of it. And I bet you Stephen Miller better not be found somewhere or something will happen to him. Luigi, so many types of him are right on the streets moving around. They're like a devil, a roaring lion looking for whom they may devour. Americans are sick and tired. So they need to hide. They surely need to hide.
Somewhere in Washington, D.C., behind military gates and government walls, a strange little community is forming. We have Stephen and Katie Miller, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth and his handler, and Marquito Rubio, all reportedly living on military bases. You know, in government housing meant for actual military families. Which sounds a little socialist, don't you think? And we're not talking about regular military houses, of course. We're talking about the houses that are normally reserved for the admirals and the generals. You know, housing that for military families is already really difficult to find. But if this sounds like a scene from The Handmaid's Tale, that's because it basically is. The commanders have gathered, the wives are safely inside the gates. Now, they'll tell you it's for security reasons, you know, for their safety from
those crazy communists
and
these stupid white hippies.
And honestly, I don't doubt for a second that Katie and Stephen Miller would find the words "We love immigrants" written in chalk outside their house a credible threat. And DEI enriches us all? So threatening and scary. But thankfully, the MAGA regime has a safe space to retreat to. Government subsidized, of course. And I'm sure the troops won't mind waiting a few more years.
Why is there an unusual amount of Trump cabinet members that's actually staying on military bases? And why is no one actually talking about this? I saw this headline a couple of days ago and I thought to myself, yeah, that sounds on brand for Stephen Miller. He's a little bit of a weasel and he seems like the type that would actually just love to mooch off of the government while he actually harms millions of Americans. And I found this story about how not only is Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio living on military bases, but there's multiple members of the Trump administration that are currently living on United States military bases. This story talks about how Pete Hegseth and other members of the Trump administration has moved into housing that was specifically earmarked for vice admirals, and it's getting kind of concerning. Notes how in the past, yes, there has been members of certain cabinets that have stayed on military bases, but everyone's saying there's an extremely high number of Trump cabinet members that are currently living on military bases. It highlights how it makes it harder for those admirals to now find housing because the houses that were earmarked for them are being taken by those members of the administration. And it also talks about how Marco Rubio, just moments after being sworn in, he moved into a house that's located near Pete Hegseth. But in Donald Trump's first administration, there was only two members, which was Jim Mattis and Mike Pompeo, who actually lived on military bases. This is something very uncommon for all administrations, including the last Trump administration. My only question is, why are they hiding out on these military bases? What are they so scared of? Are they scared that they know that they're doing something wrong? And are they afraid that the people may possibly rise up? Are they worried about being heckled or seen in public? What's the real reason? Because they like free shit. They like free shit, and they've decided that they want to actually get cheap housing and protection at the same time.
They better hide. I know damn well they better hide. Because Americans are pissed. Americans don't joke. And it's not even Democrats. It's not just people of color. We have Republicans now divided between Republicans and MAGA. Even MAGA, every single day, they keep on regretting why they voted for this administration. They better hide.
Multiple senior Trump officials are now moving into military bases. Here's what we know. Multiple senior officials in the Trump administration have relocated to military bases in the Washington, D.C. area amid reported concerns for their personal safety, according to The Atlantic. Top Trump advisor Stephen Miller and his family recently moved into military housing after their neighbors in Arlington, Virginia protested their presence. The Millers have since listed their home for $3.75 million. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem is residing in a government-owned residence in Joint Base Anacostia Bolling, a home typically used by the Coast Guard Commandant. A Department of Homeland Security spokesperson said Noem is, quote, paying fair market rent for the property. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth are both living on Fort McNair's General's Row near Buzzard Point. Rubio reportedly lives there alone, while his family remains in Florida. A Defense Department official said Hegseth pays around $4,655.70 per month for his residence. Army Secretary Daniel P. Driscoll has also moved into military housing at Joint Base Meyer Henderson Hall, which he shares with Navy Secretary John Feeling. Feelings Washington home was damaged in a fire earlier this year, according to congressional staff familiar with the matter. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard had also considered relocating to Fort McNair earlier in the year, though the plan did not move forward due to limited space, The Atlantic reported. While it is not uncommon for some defense and national security officials to reside in military housing, experts say it is unusual for so many senior civilian leaders to do so at the same time.
Did you know that top Trump officials are now living on U.S. military bases? Yeah, civilian advisors living on U.S. United States military bases. They moved out of their Washington, D.C. homes to live on military bases. Why, you're probably asking? Let's break this all down. It all started after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And soon after that, protesters started targeting the White House advisor, Stephen Miller, and his wife, Katie. Protesters then got outside his neighborhood in Virginia, said that he was like one of the mustache people. And now the Millers, alongside with at least 6 other top Trump officials, are quietly moving into secure military housing across Washington, D.C. These people include Kristi Noem, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and others. And these houses are usually reserved for generals, and so they were pushed out to put in these political appointees, and experts say that this is like the first time we've ever seen something like this. But the reason for all this is quite clear. The threats are escalating because after Charlie Kirk's death, we've seen the Trump administration label Antifa a domestic terrorist group despite no legal framework on that label. And with ICE agents going through cities, with the National Guard going and being put into cities, and other things happening, including, well, a government shutdown, people losing SNAP benefits, people are getting angry of the people who are making the decisions. And look, in history, we have seen sometimes these figures go into these bases for a temporary thing, but now it looks permanent, which should show you something. That if your people are that angry with you, that you have to live full-time at a military base, clearly you're doing something wrong. And there's more to this story. The Atlantic put out a great article called "The Top Trump Military Officials Are Moving into Military Bases."
What's up, guys? D7 back at you. As always, a lot going on out there, but we've got some moves being made here that I wanted to point out that we haven't seen at this level before. We've got multiple Trump administration officials, high-level officials, high positions, trying to move on to military bases. Many of them are making this move right now. Some already have. Others are trying. Now, Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, he's trying to make this move. Kristi Noem was one of the first to do this. We also have now Stephen Miller packing his family up and moving into the area in D.C. known as General's Row or around that vicinity. You have Marco Rubio that lives on the base as well. You have Pete Hegseth. Then you have Tulsi Gabbard trying to get on to the base to live with her family. All because they fear for their lives. They're saying that they fear the repercussions of what is to come with protests, with riots, assassination attempts, all this stuff. And then there's more that they will not name because of national security and to keep them safe. They will not name these individuals. So we don't even know who they are that they're moving into the base because they all fear for their lives. So we've seen a lot of action, a lot of protests over the years. BLM, we've seen all kinds of crap. We've never seen officials start to flip out and geek out like this and go running for cover into the military bases. It's as if they're expecting something huge to happen. I think we can all feel it in the air. The question is what, when? It could be a combination of things, but one thing's for sure at this point. They're telegraphing that they know something huge is coming that's going to make the people upset en masse. And they're basically running into hiding, into a protective space here. And I expect more to follow. If I get names on these individuals they're trying to keep under wraps, I'll update. I'll let you guys know. Make sure to follow me on X as well. And join me for the live streams Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, where I got more time to talk about this in greater detail.
When my mutual told me about this, I swear to God, I did not believe it. I had to search for it. I'm like, no, this could not be happening. Please share, save, engage, comment, get this out there. This needs to be out there. Post about it. Top Trump officials are moving onto military bases. They're taking the homes that previously housed senior officers on military bases, so-called for their protection and their security and their safety. These people include Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, Kristi Noem, and others. What is going on? This is not normal behavior. Is this setting the stage for something greater to be happening in this country? We need to be watching for these type of things. Please share this information.